Fairtex ended up announcing that they are doing an MMA show twice a month, so every 2 weeks in Lumpinee Stadium for both females and males. And I will be the first. I'll be the first of 2 women. I'm competing against Aphidet Fairtex.
"2019 was the last
Yes.
time you competed in MMA.
Yes.
You actually competed against Casey O'Neill, who's doing very well in the UFC. She eventually
She
became
is.
your training partner, your roommate.
Yeah, and
you guys,
my best friend. Yeah.
one of your best friends, and it's crazy how the world works. But what I wanted to get into was after that fight. Where were you? What were you doing? Why haven't we seen you compete in MMA since?
So after I fought Casey, I was unfortunately given the news that my visa to South Africa was denied. So I kind of last minute had to sort of figure out what I was going to do, because I knew I didn't really want to stay in Australia. I just kind of feel like I knew there were better places to train and develop. And so one of my friends from South Africa was actually working as a wrestling coach in Thailand, and he got me a sponsorship at Phuket Top Team. And because I'd lived in Thailand before, it just seemed like it made sense for me to come back here, because I've lived here, I grew up here. I'm pretty familiar with the language. So I decided to come back to Thailand. And I was at Top Team for a while. And no, disrespect to them or anything, but I just think the MMA program that they had was a little bit disorganized. And because I'd come from such a, systematic gym where Richie just ran everything to sort of perfection, I decided to actually go back to Muay Thai for a while, because I was sort of just, not happy with how the MMA was run. So I went back to Muay Thai for a while. And then Casey and I ended up meeting up and started hanging out. And she was telling me often that I should go to Tiger Muay Thai. And really in the beginning, I was against the idea, because I said Tiger Muay Thai is really commercial. I don't want to do that. But she kept telling me, you got to come meet George Hickman. You got to come meet George Hickman. So one day I was like, all right, I'm just going to go and meet George Hickman so she'll get off my back about it. And I went to watch one of their sparring sessions, and there was about 100 people on that mat. It was almost like, it was kind of overwhelming, right? There was so many people there. But I remember just watching, George take the floor, and the way he had taken command of everything. And I saw that he was running everything so smoothly. And I just observed him and Frank, and I thought, wow, those are 2 guys I could really get behind. Waited until after the session, spoke with him a little bit, and then I decided, I was like, you know what, I think I'm going to make the move to Tiger Muay Thai. So couple of months later, after sorting everything out with Top Team, I moved over to train with George, and then COVID happened. So I was there for about 2 weeks, and then the gyms closed, and there was no training or anything like that. So I kind of decided in that moment to enjoy having some time off, because, well, you didn't anticipate it was going to go for as long as it did. And then when the gyms did open, there was just no MMA fights. There was just nothing really happening, but there were Muay Thai shows coming back. So I once again took a step back to Muay Thai, had a fight. And then after that fight, I really just felt like my heart wasn't in Muay Thai anymore. I enjoyed it and stuff, but I really wanted to stick with MMA. And I knew that every time I went back to Muay Thai, it was kind of like taking a few steps back in all the things I developed in MMA, because I would miss out on grappling. I would go back to my original stand-up style. So that was about, my last Muay Thai fight was in August. And then from there, I just decided, okay, I'm just going to be patient. I'm just going to wait it out. My heart's in MMA. So I just decided 100% to go on with that. And then obviously, George Hickman left Tiger. So I followed him, and It was basically, we were training in his and Alex's backyard. Um, and then it was basically just about waiting for things to open up.
Throughout 2020, you still trained, and like you said, you're in the backyard, and the backyards are sometimes the best places to train, especially if you got the right training partners and the coaches, and you do have a good group around you. Loma was still fighting in the UFC, so you're one of her main training partners most of the time. And how was that? I mean, just being part of those camps, it's kind of going old school.
Yeah, so um, I'm just gonna say puzzle mats suck to wrestle on, but I think it was a really good. It was good because it gave me a chance to kind of like really focus on technique and develop my technique rather than the pressure of you got to get better because you have a fight coming up. So it kind of took the pressure off. But training with Loma for her fights has been, I mean, it's like a humbling experience, isn't it? Like I feel kind of honored to be a part of the camp. And, a year ago when I had first gotten to Tiger, I did a couple of sparring sessions with Loma leading up to one of her fights. And then George just kind of stopped doing that because she had like cleaned the mats with me, and it wasn't really benefiting me at the time, and it wasn't benefiting her because she was in camp. So to be one of her main sparring partners now is just it's like it's a little bit of a big deal for me, and I love to be a part of it, and I love to watch Loma grow as well every camp, and see how she develops as an athlete. And I learn. I know it's her camp, but I always feel like I learn so much as well. Just like having to, um, you got to bring it for your partners. So I feel like that also helps me level up every time. So it's been really, really awesome.
And also, you had Casey before she actually left to Vegas, right? You trained with her for a
Yeah,
while.
yeah,
Weren't you guys living together? So you probably were training together too, right? At home?
yeah, yeah. So Casey was definitely when before Tiger had closed, and even while it was closed, actually, Casey is she's a workhorse. Like she was just finding every way possible that she could train. And I love training with Casey because she will always push you. Like she goes so, her work pace is so hard, and she's just not lazy in any sense. But also, one of my favorite things about training with Casey was like she was always willing to like share knowledge because obviously she has that much more experience than me. So when we would drill or do anything together, she would be like, "Hey, that's really good, but if you like did this, it'll be better." And yeah, so I feel like even in that time, I learned like quite a few things from her, and I'm really waiting for her to come back. I actually miss training with her a lot. I think she's a really, really great training partner.
Yeah, those are two great measuring sticks for yourself, because you only have one fight in MMA. Those
Hmm.
girls, they're in the UFC and they've had many fights in the UFC. So when you think
Yeah,
about it, training with them, it just will make you develop so much quicker, I believe.
100%, 100%. And I think some of the best part is I have a really strong friendship with Casey, and I have a strong friendship with Loma, and I love that there's no ego there. And for me, like I just want to learn. So, I without a doubt would like, it doesn't kill me to say that they are better than me at this stage. And I'm just, anything I can learn from them, I'm totally like 100% ears open and just willing to.
So, it's been so long, and you've been training through the COVID, and you flipped back and forth with Muay Thai and MMA, and you mentioned it earlier how it kind of messed you up a little bit. How difficult has it been? But it's probably better now that you don't have to worry about the Muay Thai for the last how many months?
It's been September, October, November, a year and 6 months almost actually since I last trained Muay Thai. And I think like the thing is I kept going back to Muay Thai because I just wanted to keep busy and keep the ring rust off. But at the same time, I remember when I had my first MMA fight, I had been really, really active in Muay Thai, and it still felt like my very first time fighting ever, despite that despite that experience. So I kept going back to keep the ring rust off, but then I would lose out on developing my grappling. Like I said, the stand-up it's just a different game, and I would always resort back to, when I would go back to MMA, I would just be basically doing back my Muay Thai style, and the very standstill, walk forward, and especially as a striker, like you can't get away with that with people who wrestle really well. So I just decided it was hindering my MMA growth overall. But there's definitely still things from Muay Thai that I know are 100% useful and I keep with me. And I still think it's like the strongest striking. So I definitely am grateful for that. And I want to take that with me into MMA and to be able to translate it where it's needed. But I just knew it was holding me back from growing overall, because where I needed the most development is my grappling. And in Muay Thai, it's when you train Muay Thai, you cannot train Muay Thai twice a day and fit in a wrestling or jiu-jitsu session. Muay Thai is a different kind of exhausting. It's just 2.5 hours of pure cardio. And so I always thought, okay, I'll train Muay Thai, get in a couple of grappling sessions, but it's just impossible. And also the Thai trainers are very you fight Muay Thai, you train Muay Thai. So I just knew as well, when I was training for my last Muay Thai fight, it's always the earliest session, and then I would see the jiu-jitsu crew kind of coming to go train jiu-jitsu, and I'd be like, oh, I miss jiu-jitsu. And that's just kind of when I knew my heart wasn't really in Muay Thai anymore.
You see your teammates, like Top Doi comes from Muay Thai, Loma comes from Muay Thai, you also come from Muay Thai. So when you see them transitioning so well, it shows a light at the end of the tunnel in many ways for yourself, right? Instead of just having nobody there and you just have a bunch of wrestlers, then it could be discouraging.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie though, Top Noise wrestling and his grappling is really, really good. And he's the type of guy who can just go watch a YouTube video and then he'll come in and we'll be grappling. And I'm like, where has this come from? We didn't even do this. He's like, yeah, YouTube. So sometimes I'm like, why the hell are you picking this up so fast? But I got to remember, that guy has been fighting since the womb, probably. He was born fighting. So I think for them, sometimes it can be a little bit easier to pick things up because it's their life, right? And even for Thai fighters, when they have a really strong clinch, you can translate that over into, look at Loma in some of her UFC fights. I can definitely translate over to MMA for them. But it does help a lot. And it's kind of cool because, we all have that bond of okay, we were over here and we're all trying to get now over there. So, yeah.
Yeah. And the new team, the new gym that the Hickman brothers, Alex, Woody, is it Bang Tao or Bang Tao?
Bang Tao.
Okay.
Well,
Bang
actually,
Tao.
it depends because, I think the Thai say Bang Tao, but obviously, foreigners are going to come in and be like Bang Tao. So either or. I think either or.
Yeah, I like Bang Tao a little better. I think it just rolls off the tongue for
just
foreigners.
Has a bang to it.
Yeah, it has a bang to it, right? So the gym is very, very close to being complete, but you guys been training there for a while now, just with puzzle mats and the new mats I saw.
The construction workers.
Yeah, while the construction workers are doing the construction. So it's weird. The experience of that is because you guys were training in the middle of it, while everything was kind of forming around you every day, piece by piece by piece. And I just saw recently that you guys actually got the real mats in, the Fuji mats. And how does it feel to be a part of that and be a part of that team and the growth of that?
It's so funny that you asked me that because I was on Saturday, George had called me. It was New Year's Day, and George had just come back from his trip for the New Year, and he messaged me. He said, "Hey, I'm back. Do you want to hit some pads?" And took time off of just on a Saturday. Took time off of his afternoon to obviously make sure I got in the training that I needed. And then he said afterwards for me to go hang out with them on the beach, and I was driving home and I was just thinking about how grateful I am that I'm not going to get emotional right now. How grateful I am that they brought me on this journey and that when they were opening, when they had decided they were going to make the new gym and things like that, that at one point they decided to bring me in the loop and sort of like, you know, I mean, George and stuff say that they were pretty positive that I was going to follow, like that they knew that I would be along for the ride. But I just think about it all the time, like how much I value them as not just like my team, but as like a family. And I just feel like this whole experience has made us all really, really close. And it shows their faith in me as an athlete. And I think too, like us blindly following them into the abyss of like not knowing what was going to happen shows them the faith that we have in them as coaches. And honestly, I'm so grateful to be a part of this journey and to be a part of this experience and to know that I've been there now from the beginning, from training on the puzzle mats in the yard to training on the puzzle mats in the construction site to now, I think today, training on the official mats. So it's actually been amazing. And I'm so happy with it. And I adore them. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else with anyone else. Yeah, it's been amazing. It's been awesome.
And now you have a fight coming up.
I do.
So tell us about like the circumstances surrounding this fight. It's in Lumpinee, which
Oh my
never
God.
has two things. They never had women fight there, so you're gonna be one of the first women, or you might be the first woman to fight there. I don't know. And then number two, they never had MMA fights until I think this is the first event. So tell us something.
Okay, so when Lumpinee announced that they were taking women athletes for Muay Thai, I'll tell you what, it almost convinced me to make another jump back to Muay Thai because I just like revered this idea of fighting in Lumpinee, right? Because it's the sacred stadium of Muay Thai and all the legends fight there. And I always had this dream, and I actually have it written in a diary somewhere, like when I'd first, you know, where I'd write my goals and stuff to be able to compete in Lumpinee one day. But I really just didn't think it would be so soon that they would bring women into it. So when they were doing that, I thought, I mean, I'd spoken to George. I was like, you know, Top Noi can like help me. You know, I got Loma and Top Noi. So like maybe I could look at fighting in Lumpinee. And, you know, George was like all for it, but he's like, I really just don't want you to lose everything you've developed in MMA. So then anyway, Fairtex ended up announcing that they are doing an MMA show twice a month, so every 2 weeks in Lumpinee Stadium for both females and males. And I will be the first. I'll be the first of two women. I'm competing against Aphidet Fairtex, who she's like me. She's coming from Muay Thai, so I think it's going to make an awesome matchup in that sense and a more even one experience-wise. And so when George asked me if I wanted to take that fight, I mean, I just feel like the universe works in mysterious ways because I knew I really wanted to compete in Lumpinee, but to be the first woman to do it in the sports that I really, really wanted to stick to is just, it's amazing. I'm so excited. I can't even tell you. It's just been like such a long wait, and I've had a lot of moments where I was like, maybe I'm not supposed to do this, you know, and I felt like at one point I was watching everybody else get their fights and get their opportunities. And I love watching my friends succeed, and I love seeing people grow. But it can be hard sometimes when you feel like you're missing out and everyone's getting a piece of cake. So I'm really excited to get my piece right now. And I feel like the timing's almost perfect. I feel like I've developed so much over this past year, even just training in the yards. I've had the opportunity to, like I said, focus on technique and focus on things like that. I'm so excited. I can't even explain it. It's surreal. It's so awesome.
It is great to see. You know, I'm excited too to see Lumpinee actually allowing MMA and female fighters to compete. You've pretty much been in an 18-month training camp then for this fight.
Pretty much. Just without the like intense, you know, the intensity of it, but like I said, I feel like that's gonna benefit me if anything, because I had all this time to really focus on my technique and focus on just getting better without the pressure of like, oh my God, I'm fighting in 6 weeks. Like it has to happen now. So, and I've had, yeah.
Well, you got to feel the emotions of other people's camps. You know what I mean? That rubs off a little bit as they go through
Oh yeah,
things.
oh yeah, 100%. And the thing is, like, I think Loma and I are very similar, like in our mentality sometimes. So like I see her go through the waves, and I'm like, I know, I feel you, sister. Like I get it. So yeah, it's mostly been Loma who's fighting, but also now my other teammate JJ fights this coming weekend, and I see like how it's actually been cool. He's grown so much over the past 6 months, I feel, but yeah, it has been like that. Like, it's not my camp, but obviously you care, right? Like, even on the fight day, I wake up, I get ready to watch the fight, and there's all the nerves and stuff. And yeah, it's almost like going through your own camp.
Yeah, and the last couple of months have not been without competition. I saw that you were involved in a grappling tournament with like Jim
Yeah.
versus Jim. How was that experience?
It was cool. Like, it's so funny. I get more nervous in jiu-jitsu competitions than anything. Like, I think too, because, when the referee in a Muay Thai or MMA fight says go, okay, you're like punching each other in the face, right? So there's that adrenaline. As where a jiu-jitsu fight, it's not like that. It's like, it can be, you grab onto each other and it can be very like stiff and static. So you still have that adrenaline happening without the sort of like punches in the face throwing the nerves into the background. It was cool because it was kind of last minute. They were doing like a Quinton kind of competition where it was like teams versus teams, and one of my teammates, Ploy Shayada, they call her, really wanted to do it, and I hadn't even thought about it, and I actually ended up doing it because I thought it would be great for her to compete and stuff. And then it was good because I was actually so nervous on the day, and I got to have that feeling all over again. So yeah, it was a fun competition. I think that Phuket Fight Club had like a really good, a successful competition held there. So yeah, it was cool. I really enjoyed it.
January 15th is the date of the show.
16th.
16th. Okay, January 16th. There's been so much that has been going through your life with training and just watching your team grow, all of this stuff. So when you step into that ring, they're gonna have a ring, right? It's not a
It's a
cage.
ring.
Okay.
It's a ring. So I feel like I can benefit from that
Mm-hmm.
in some way, but I also know like it can be a negative, and it can also like hinder some things. But I think it's better because it's my environment, and I understand. I understand a ring as to a cage.
So what do you expect out of yourself, in this fight?
So the first things first, I'm not going to take anything away from Aphidet, and I'm going to go in there as if she's going to be harder than Casey O'Neill. Like, I'm just going to go in there with that mentality. But honestly, I expect from myself to show a completely different fighter. Better grappling skills, better wrestling skills. I have a fat collie on my ear at the moment. I didn't get it. I didn't get it for nothing. And just a completely different style of stand-up. George and I have been working that a lot. And, I'm learning to be, because I'm long and I'm tall, especially for my weight class. So I'm learning to be really rangy and be able to, for me, like, I think it's going to be a different experience for anyone who's watched me fight before. And I just plan to stay long and rangy, know when to engage. And I'm really hoping that I can show off some of my grappling skills. That would be awesome.
Is it going to be televised or anything like that?
I think that there'll be a live stream. I'm assuming so. I would imagine that maybe it'll be on channel 8 or something like that. But I haven't actually gotten so many details about it yet. They haven't even released the full card. Yeah. But I know as soon as I do know, I'm going to share that with everyone on my social media and stuff like that. So
for sure,
you'll be in the loop.
Yeah, a lot of eyes on this, and I'm making history. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, and I'm happy for you, Jada, and good luck on the rest of the camp and your performance coming up.
Thanks so much, John. Thank you. I'm so excited.